All right. Welcome to Rock Talk. We're here with Alex DeCarolis, former Canisius Golden Griffin in the NCAA, now pro playing for the Halifax Wanderers at CPL. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Mike. Thank you for having me. It'll be nice to chat with you guys. And just thanks for having me.
All right, let's jump right into it. Briefly talk about your journey in high school, university, now pro. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from. I guess the floor is yours.
Yeah, so for the people listening, I'm their better-looking cousin. So we all grew up together. I'm the same age as Joe, 2 years older than Mikey. But from Sarnia, Ontario. Grew up playing mostly just soccer and basketball, dual sport athlete throughout high school. I chose to go with my soccer route in my later years of high school. Grew up in Sarnia, Ontario. Played soccer there for Sarnia Fury, the local team that was back then. And then just St. Chris, the high school that we went to there. And then once I graduated from high school, I got a soccer scholarship to Canisius College in the NCAA Division 1, which is Canisius is in Buffalo, New York. So just about 3.5, 4 hours from Sarnia. I did 4 years there. I got my degree in criminal justice, and I played soccer along the 4 years there as well. From there, I was lucky enough to get a professional opportunity to go play in Sweden, where I played for 3 years for 3 different clubs, one each year. I did that for 3 years after I graduated Canisius. Had a pretty good time there, successful. I went up divisions every year, so it was pretty good for me. And then after my 3rd year, the Canada Premier League started, we're in 2020 now, so this is the 2nd year it's been around. Brand new professional league here in Canada, Tier 1 league for the first time ever. So I got the opportunity to hopefully come back to this league. And one of the coaches, which is Halifax, Stephen Hart, who used to coach our national team, saw me and liked me as a player. So he called me when I was in Sweden. And then, from 2019, I played for Halifax, and then they signed me for 2 more years on top of that. So I'm back here in Halifax for my year 2.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, and we had the opportunity as well to go watch Alex play last summer in Hamilton, and highly suggest getting out and attending one of those games. Yeah. Very high level of soccer, and was even impressed myself being an OFSAA champion with Alex as well in high school. So really good soccer, and I would suggest you check that out. Yeah. Alex, you tell the viewers a little bit about managing both your athletics and school and social life and everything that comes with kind of going through the athlete journey and how you manage that?
I think that's people that go to university and play sport as well. I mean, you guys both did it. I think you guys can attest to the same thing I'm going to say. I think the thing that was the most important to be successful in all 3, but mostly important in your school and your sport, the most thing you needed to have was time management skills. When you're in high school, you're playing every sport and you're having a social life, but it's not as severe and intense as when you're in university, right? I mean, if you start slacking in your school and university, then you're ineligible for the field. Or if you're focusing too much on school and not on your sport, you start to drop and then you don't play anymore, right? So I found going through the 4 years studying, all that kind of thing. So learning to make your time valuable was my most important thing that I learned in the university days. It took time. When I got to university, I was never really like that. I kind of just did my own thing and then just didn't really have those skills yet because I never really had to learn. And then I saw certain aspects of my life suffering. So once I kind of just put all my focus in season into school, into my sport, I noticed that was the biggest adjustment for me. When you're out of season, then you can start to have more of a social life and kind of live the university experience. But when I was in season, I'm sure you guys are the same. Basketball kind of went into both semesters, I'm pretty sure. So you guys kind of had it tougher. Yeah. But when you're, you're there to play a sport, right? You're not there to party or have fun. I mean, that comes with the sport if you do well. So when you're in season, it's just strictly, for me at least, was making sure all my schoolwork was done, my sport was done, and then whatever time I had left, that's what I would do for my spare time. But
good.
Management skills was definitely the most important thing needed.
Definitely. So kind of like us, obviously growing up, even in Sarnia, I know Mike and I can attest to this huge, is we had to make a lot of sacrifices. I mean, not going out with your friends sometimes because we have to go train, or having schoolwork that kind of needs to be done because we are at tournaments or we're out of town for different type of things regarding athletics. So we kind of just want to hear kind of some of the sacrifices that you had to go through. I know you are dual sport in high school, but as you kind of went through the sacrifices you had to make kind of with balancing both, and you know that goes back to the last question, but kind of what kind of sacrifices athletically did you have to make?
I noticed as I matured throughout high school, I got older in the years, I started to realize the party life, the social life really wasn't for me. I mean, sure, there was nights where I like to go and have fun, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I always kind of knew deep down that soccer was going to be my calling, sort of say. I knew that like going out and having fun on the weekends, like sure, that's fun. Every kid in high school would want to do that for the most part. But like I knew that that wasn't going to benefit me in what I wanted to do and what I am doing right now. So I think as I matured, I kind of grew out of that phase earlier than most people our age would. Definitely a lot of sacrifice. I mean, there'd be a lot of nights where I would just not go out on the weekend, or like New Year's, I remember I wouldn't even go out all the time just because I knew I wanted to train the next day, and going out would kind of hinder that. So, I mean, you're going to hear from your friends that, oh, come on, come out, like just do it kind of thing. But you learn to kind of push that aside. And if they're your real friends, they'll still be your friend if you don't go, right? So I've noticed that change in my lifestyle, because at the end of the day, you hear all these elite athletes. I'm sure everyone's watching the Michael Jordan documentary. Like, I don't think he was going out often, right? Like that guy is just strict. That's a different level of quality. But when I was growing up, I mean, I kind of had similar beliefs just because I knew if I wanted to make it to levels where I'm at today, you need to sacrifice. And I noticed my college life was like that as well. Off season, I kind of had time to have fun, but in season it was business as usual. So I think that's been like good, just learning to sacrifice, because at the end of the day, to do a sport at a high level, it requires a lot of sacrifice. You need to cut things out of your life that for most people are fun or whatever, but you have to learn how to cut stuff out, and they're still fun in the future. They'll always be there, but sport, you can only play for X amount of years. So I just kind of had the mentality to make the most of it while I can.
Awesome. And for everybody listening, I mean, when even as I was going through watching the Jordan documentary and watching how Jordan interacted with his teammates and motivated his teammates, it made me think of one person, and that was Alex from high school. Because he never said we weren't allowed to eat the meal after a tournament game or anything. But if we weren't doing something right in practice, then he made us know, right? And he let us know that you aren't doing it right, and you need to be better. And that's the expectation, the level that he set for everybody, and it elevated the level of success of our team, because now everybody was competing at a much higher level.
He actually compared himself basketball-wise, and not off the court, but basketball-wise, he compared himself to Rodman the other day. And I mean, that's not very far off. You rebounded, you were gritty, you defended. I actually kind of sat back and I was like, all right, that's kind of a pretty good comparison for you.
Maybe never end up marrying himself, but I mean,
that's not off the court. The on the court stuff, your comparison is good for him.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I was just gonna move on to the next question, but go ahead and finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say, like, our basketball team. I mean, for those that don't know, I mean, I'll speak for me and my and Joe era. Mike joined us when me and Joe became junior, senior in high school in our 5th year. That's when Mike was on our teams. But me and Joe, I mean, our team, me, him, and Eric McDonald was kind of, I mean, they were the big two, and I was kind of like their third player just to do all the dirty work. But that was the role that I wanted to play. But we basically had a little Sarnia dynasty of our own. I mean, also silver medalists. I mean, 4 to 5 city championships. But like I always saw in Joe and Mikey when he came here, we always saw the potential in our team. Even though it was high school, like we knew we could do things, and we needed to be serious when we were on the court. So that's just the mentality that I've kind of had with that team. But
sure.
And you know what, actually to extend off of that too, why don't you tell us a little bit about role definition and how that's changed, I guess, throughout your career, and I mean moving across sports as well too, and you know, were your roles changing, you know, either from a grinder to a scorer, or and then how do you handle your day to day depending on what role you know you have at that time?
Great question. That's a great, yeah. So I'll answer this on basketball and soccer perspective because it's basketball. So I'll do basketball first. So for our high school team, I knew I wasn't the first or the second guy to get the option to score, right? Even when Mike came to our team, I wasn't the third option either. I was probably the fourth on that team because I knew we had players on the offensive end to do it, right? So I knew that wasn't my strength for the team. So instead of trying to go get 20 points a game, maybe I can get 2 points a game, but be a threat on the defensive end of the court. So it wasn't an easy job. I mean, we always joke now when we talk with the boys back then, but like whenever Joe or Eric would get hit, like I would always tell them to run off my screen. I would do a little dirty work, you know, but that was the role that I wanted to play. And like, I kind of liked it because it kept me on the court. I mean, if I would have been the player that would have just shot everything I got, I probably wouldn't have made 10% of them, and I probably wouldn't have played as much as I did. So I knew for me to play, I would have to be the third option on the court and the defensive kind of guy. So for me, I was happy that I do that because I just want to play. I mean, people that play sports, you're a competitor, and the last thing you want to do is be on the bench. It's one of the worst things ever, especially when you know you can be doing a job. And for basketball, my job was to play defense. So
right. And then in terms of soccer, moving, I mean, you're always at a high level with soccer, but as you moved from, you know, call it high school, transitioning into your club, you know, into university, into college, I mean, you're on teams that now you're battling with the best players from all high schools. So, you know, being in that main sport, how did the role change within soccer?
Yeah, so when we finished high school, our OFSAA champion team, I was like a forward or a center midfielder, and that's where I played my whole career. I was kind of the goal scorer kind of player. And my first year I went to school, Canisius, my coach said, hey, you're a good center midfielder, but if you want to play center midfield on this team, you probably won't play the freshman year. You might have to redshirt. He goes, but if you want to switch to left back, which is left defense, because I'm left-footed, you can play right away. More like you have pretty good chance to have the starting spot right away. And in my head, I remember I'm like, well, defense. Like I never played defense before, especially left defense. Like that's, I mean, sure, I guess. So I had a couple of chats with people like off the field. They're like, hey, like you can play right away. Like go do it. So I transitioned to a new position just because I wanted playing time, and I've been my position for the last 7 years now. Wow. So I think that was an adjustment I needed to make because I went from scoring all the goals to now, if I score, it's like a miracle in a way because I'm a defender. So my job is to stop that, right? And now I've noticed as I'm getting older in my career, I mean, my legs I can't run like I used to back in the day. So now I'm transitioning into like a center back, which is complete last person back. So I think that's one thing you need to be coachable. I'm sure you guys have heard it in your sport a lot. You can have, if I'm a coach, I'll take the guy who's level 5 out of 10 talent, but works his butt off all the time compared to a guy who's just 10 out of 10 talent and doesn't want to work with the team, right? You have to be adaptable, coachable, and that's kind of how I've always been, I think. So that's very important to be flexible with what the coach wants you to do.
Talk a little bit about being a dual sport athlete. I mean, I know you've touched on it. Talk a little bit about how being a dual sport athlete, especially in high school, when you're younger, how it helps you in your main sport. Because obviously soccer was your main sport. We all knew it, but basketball you were very good at as well. And it probably helped you and translated back towards your soccer game, different movements and stuff like that. So talk a little bit about that.
I definitely think it made me more athletic. I think it was like Wayne Gretzky who said that he would always play a lot of sports back in the day, and that's like the best hockey player of all time, right? So I think playing two sports just made me more athletic. I was doing different movements that you don't really do in soccer. Like basketball is a lot of like fast twitch muscle movements, like a lot of quick sprints, agility, like hard, intense, and then that's quick, right? Where soccer is more like slower pace, longer runs. So I think that helped me like adapt to my quickness part of the game. Even like mentally too. I mean, basketball, it's so much like you're in the heat of the moment all the time when you're on the court. Like you don't really have time for yourself to like collect your thoughts playing. Whereas soccer, like the ball can be in one end. I'm defense. I could have 20, 30 seconds just standing just to regroup, right? In basketball, you obviously can't do that. So I think it made me just be mentally engaged all the time. Because basketball, like you have to be mentally in all the time. So little things like that I've noticed throughout the years. Even my position in defense, it's a lot of shuffling, like side shuffling, running backwards, like almost like you're defending someone in basketball, like a one-on-one. So I've done a lot of movements where it kind of reminds me of my basketball days. So I think just being an athlete, like I think kids now, I could be wrong, but in my soccer that I coach in the youth kids, some of them play soccer 10 months, 11 months of the year, and they're 12 years old. And then when they're 15, 16 years old, they don't play soccer anymore.
Yeah. So
I think when you're a kid, you have to be a kid. Like there's nothing wrong with playing soccer for 6 months and basketball for 6 months when you're under 10. Like you're supposed to have fun. I think when you get to certain ages, maybe 15, 16, then you can kind of branch out into your sport. But I think growing up, I mean, it's very important. I mean, my best friends now are my basketball friends. Like you, Eric, like my good friends from back home. Those are all my friends I played with in basketball. I didn't play soccer with any of you, right? So even just building new friendships too is so important. So I think like just the more sports you can do, you overall make yourself a better athlete. So that's how I looked at it. And it's fun too. Like sorry, one more thing. Just for me, I don't think I would have been where I am now if I played soccer and was pushed intense months of the year when I was a kid. Like it's fun to go play basketball and then transition to soccer and then maybe do cross country or football or whatever. Like it's fun to do different sports. That's how I saw it, at least.
Fun fact. Fun fact here. Alex claims that if he didn't play soccer, he would be an NFL kicker. And I mean, going back to high school, you kicked some. What was your furthest kick? You had some pretty far kicks.
I had bombs in high school, I think.
Yeah. You're kicking 40-yarders in grade 10. Easy.
I think 40 is my record in grade 10.
Yeah. So he claims that if he wasn't playing professional soccer, he would be an NFL kicker, which our friend group has kind of pushed him to go and try out because there's so many kickers missing kicks in the NFL now. So
especially for Buccaneers, I'm sure they're looking for kickers all the
time. And we would have been much cooler by association too. So
100%, definitely.
Alex, what did your training regimen look like in high school, and then moving into the next level as well too, and then into professional?
Yeah, I think there was a time in my grade 13 year where I realized that my talent alone wasn't going to get me much farther. I was always like one of the better players from youth all the way up through high school, but I never really worked on my craft. I kind of just, if you had soccer practice twice a week, I would go twice a week and I'd go home. Like I never really like put in the hours when I was younger, just because I think I never really had anyone to push me that way. I just didn't really I was always one of the better players, so I always thought what I was doing was good enough. I think it was the year we won OFSAA Gold. I think that was the year, so that would have been my grade 13, which would have been 2010. So 2010 is when I kind of really started to focus on it, just because I knew that your talent only gets you so far, right? So it's like ever since that moment, I kind of just dedicated myself, and now throughout college into now, it's basically a 24-hour job. I mean, of course, there's going to be days where you have cheat days, or you can go out, socialize, that kind of thing. But for the most part, it has to be your 24-hour job. There's always someone in sports that's willing to take your job, and everyone's replaceable.
Yeah.
I mean, I can be the best player on my team for the last 2 years. I break my leg tonight, they have a replacement like that, right? And your contract's over. So that's the mentality you kind of have to have. Just there's always someone willing to take your job. And I'm assuming basketball is even more competitive in this region of the world. I mean, when I was in Sweden, it was like that. There were 16-year-olds that would come to practice and just try to break your legs because like that's their job, right? That's how they put food on the table. So that's kind of what I learned over the years, and just kind of sticking with that. I mean, right now I'm the oldest player on our team, so there's one 26-year-old and I'm 27. So I kind of take pride in that because it's not really easy to. Joe knows too. It's not easy to be older and stay at the same level, right? So I think it's just dedicating yourself and making it your full-time job, which it is for me now. But you have to maintain that off the field. It's not enough just to do 2 hours of practice a day and go home and do whatever. Like you have to worry about everything else. So I didn't really do that much in high school just because I didn't really know. I feel like if I would have done that, it would have been much better. I just never really had that in.
What do you think were some of the limitations to stop you from doing that? Like why is it that you didn't put in the same effort, let's call it, in high school as you did in university and pro?
I never had a coach push me until I was about 18 years old, so I never really had a proper coach like in my corner doing that for me. To be honest, our teams, we were always pretty good, so I just felt whatever I was doing was enough. I never really had in my mind to go Division I university until my grade 11 year. And even then, like I wasn't heavily recruited, so I just kind of thought, from a small city, I kind of use that as my excuse. I'm from Sarnia, no one's going to find me here, so whatever happens, happens. It wasn't until I went to school when like our starting 11, we were all from 11 different countries, and you would see the guys from like the third world countries on our team, like would wake up at 6 a.m, go train, go to class, go to actual practice. Like I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how are you guys doing this? And there would be like, it's an honor for me to be here and from my country. Like I came from poor. Like, I have absolutely nothing. Like I'm the first one in my entire generation of family to even leave our country. So for them, it was an honor to do that. And it was a privilege. And I never really saw it like that. I always saw it as like I deserve it, but it's not really like a privilege.
Yeah.
But in high school, I was kind of spoiled, I guess you can say, to that because I never really thought what it could lead to.
Puts things in perspective, for sure. So what are your opinions, I guess carrying on to that question, what are your opinions on all the online resources that are available now compared to when you were growing up? So like, I mean, there's tons of things on YouTube. You can find things online. Like there's tons of online resources that can really help a young kid kind of get to that next level and really assert themselves through an online platform.
Do you mean like for social media or just for online?
No, social media is a different thing. But I'm talking about the resources that you have online. So you can find drills online. You can kind of,
gotcha.
You know what I mean? So.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, we wish we had that as kids, right?
Yeah.
There'd be times now where when I'm stretching, I put on a YouTube clip of tactical stuff, or if I want to watch highlight tape of someone, like different little things. I mean, if I'm playing a team this weekend, I can access all of their team's games on YouTube, or we have our own links for that, but I can watch them all play. If I'm a left back, I can watch their whole right side, who I'm going to be playing against. So like little things like that. I mean, I think that's so important to the game now because every sport now, I mean, not just soccer, basketball, every single sport is getting bigger, faster, and stronger. So you need something else to get around that. So I think learning from online platforms is so crucial. Yeah. Even just like own personal development, like I saw what you guys just put on this week. Like stuff like that, like that's so good for kids. Like if I was a kid and had something like that, I mean, we didn't have that technology back then, but if we would have had something like that, I think that would have I would have been all over that as a child. And I just think any way you can get better by doing little things, it's gonna only help yourself. And if you have the access to those resources, then like I don't see why anyone would not want to use that, right? So kids are lucky these days. They have everything on their phones to to get better. So there should be no excuse now.
Switching gears a little bit here. Now, like a lot of times when we work with athletes, you know, and even with yourself, with your mentorship and guidance that you give to a lot of athletes, especially in Sarnia, is, you know the answer. We know the answers now because we've been through it. But, you know, getting them to understand those answers and being able to apply it is a different challenge. And how has decisions you've made, you know, in high school, grade school, you know, throughout your life, how have those decisions impacted you in the future? And, you know, if you were to, I guess, go back, what would you do differently? You know, aside, like, was it that you didn't listen to, you know, coaches that told you certain things, or was it that you had a hard time applying it, or did you even have those challenges?
Yeah, I think when you're in the high school ages, like, for lack of better terms, you kind of think you're like big shit on campus, right? You kind of think you know everything, like no matter what someone older tells you, like, oh, they don't know anything, they're just an old person, they don't know. Like, even now, kids that I coach, like some of the kids that are in high school, like they kind of have that mentality, and like they'll show to practice like late and all, like pants baggy, and just like the appearance, they don't look like they're ready to play, right? You ask, oh, what'd you say? Like, oh, I had nothing, I didn't drink water. Like, so how are you supposed to be at your best when it comes to practice if you're not preparing for the day, right? But at the end of the day, like we were that age too, right? I'm sure, I don't think we were that bad, but I mean, we definitely weren't putting ourselves at our best to be able to perform day in, day out. But we never had those resources. So I think if kids have people in their corner, like pushing them, trying to make them go the right direction, because we've been through that, that's something that I think kids need to understand. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe's probably the only professional basketball player to come from Sarnia. We've been a couple. Mike, you had an amazing OUA career, all-star, all that. I mean, I'm the only soccer player to come from Sarnia.
Yeah.
So I think kids, if that want to do our sports, like when we're trying to tell them something, we're not saying that just because we're making stuff up like out of nowhere. Like, we went through it. We had to go through all the struggles. I mean, I'm sure Joe had the same career I did in Europe, where when you're in Europe playing in these lower country leagues, like they don't care who you are. Like you go to these countries, you play, and you have no friends. Like, no one wants to socialize because you're the foreign guy trying to take their job. So we found things to do to prolong our careers. So now when kids want to come up and do the same kind of career paths, like we never had people to say, hey, they pick their brain, you know? Yeah. So now I always tell the kids that I coach, I'm like, I'm always available. When it's Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, DM me, like message me, find my phone number. I'm easy to access. Like, I have more than enough time if a kid wants to pick my brain, if, hey, should I do this or this? I mean, there's been kids in my soccer in our city that have reached out to me every now and then and just kind of check me in and see what they should do. So I tell everyone, like, always reach out to people that have done what you want to do, right?
If I can just cut in too, like, I think that guidance is invaluable, because even for myself coming out of university, like leading up to that point, that last day of university, I always had a resource I could go to, more than one resource. I had at least 3 different resources for every question that I had. And I knew that I would see some type of picture of what my next decision would look like. And coming out of university, and even for the both of you, like you mentioned, you know, 2 of the first, you know, professional athletes out of Sarnia, you guys didn't have really those answers and that picture painted. You kind of just jumped in and had to figure it out yourself too. So, you know, that whole process must have been pretty eye-opening as well too. It's just, you know, you kind of jump into it and you figure it out as you go. And, you know, sometimes that could be one of the most rewarding things, but obviously, you know, there's comfort in knowing, you know, what the picture looks like, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I always said, like I could have, like, I got my degree in something completely unsport related. So I easily could have just finished school. I could have had the excuse, oh, I went to a small university. No teams in North America are going to take me, so I'll just go get a job and soccer career. It could have been, but I went to a small. I could have had excuses, right? But I knew I can always go back to my degree, because now that I can always go back. But deep down, what I want to do is play soccer. So how could I get there? So for me, it was, okay, I have an Italian passport. No teams in USA looked at me, because at this time Canada didn't have a league. So
Right.
no teams in USA. So I have an Italian passport. I'm going to go to Europe and just find something. I did that. I knew nothing about Sweden. Like, I knew Stockholm. That's the only thing I knew about Sweden when I went there. They gave me a stick shift car the first day. I'm like, what do I want to do? How am I supposed to drive this? I don't know how to drive stick shifts. Like, learn. Like, I taught myself over YouTube how to drive stick shifts. Like, that's how, like who would have thought a week before that I was in university, like living the college life, and now I'm in Scandinavia, like,
Wow.
like, so that's putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, right? I mean, the only way you can really succeed in anything you do, it can be any sort of thing you do, you need to be uncomfortable. Like, if you're just comfortable, for some people that's okay, but for me, that seems like a boring life, because you don't like achieve anything. You're just kind of just going through the motions until you die, and then what? Yeah. I've always kind of had the belief, like, I'd rather take a go at this. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe by 29 I'm done playing, and then what? But at least I did it and I tried it, you know? So that's the kind of mentality I've had since college started. But yeah, definitely resources are crucial. Like, now there's so many resources out for no matter what you want to do. So I think that's very lucky for people that are up and coming.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, switching gears a little bit again. So there's a little bit of a bump in the road you had prior to getting, I mean, obviously getting a scholarship was an amazing accomplishment, and every kid probably dreams of that. But there was a bump in the road. You had to take a bridge year. And tell the viewers a little bit about that bridge year, what kind of happened and what you would have done differently kind of prior to that.
Yeah, so probably should have mentioned that earlier, but so after I finished my 5 years of high school, I was supposed to go to Canisius that following fall. And I think it was a month before I was supposed to go into preseason. I got a call from my college coach saying, hey, like, the NCAA clearinghouse called me, like, you're ineligible for a year. I'm like, ineligible? Like, what do you mean ineligible? Like, if I have a good GPA, like, what did I do? So in my grade 10, I took an applied math class. So I don't know if this is different now in high school, but I took like the lower level math. Did fine. And then my next through 2 years, I took the advanced level, but that one level of math I took made me ineligible for a full calendar school year.
Wow.
So my choices were go to this school, which is very expensive on non-scholarship, so I'd have to pay for it, or go to school in Canada and then transfer if I have a certain GPA. And my coach was nice enough to honor my scholarship the following year. So basically what I did, I went to University of Windsor for a year, Mike's alma mater there. Amazing school, by the way. Still love that moment. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I went to Windsor for a year, and I couldn't play on the team there because I would lose a year of eligibility. So I was just a normal student. Yeah, so I did that, got a good GPA, and then I transferred the following year. But that was a brutal year. I remember just being all depressed and just miserable. Like, I never really had a good social life there just because I knew I didn't belong there. I loved Windsor, the city, the campus. Like, it was amazing. Like, that was amazing. But like, I just knew deep down I didn't belong, and it was really hard to like have friends for the future there just because I knew I wasn't going to be there. But I think near the second semester, I kind of changed my mentality again, where I was like, you know what, like, I'm here for a year, like, make the most of it. I mean, stuff happens, this happened, no point being a sulk all year, where I can like at least make the most of it. And to this day, I have 2 or 3 good girlfriends that were there, and I still friends with them to this day. But just little things like changing my mentality to be like, you can't control everything, right? So you have to make the most out of a bad situation. That's basically what I did. My agent now, Jamie Gallagher from Sarnia, he was my coach by that year when I went to Windsor, and we kind of went on a journey together to be like, hey, like, you have your scholarship waiting for you as long as you have a 3.0 GPA, which is a B average. As long as you have that, then like you're fine to go. So just stay fit, do this, and it'll come. And that's kind of what happened. But it was tough. It was tough being 19, the first time away from home. not where I wanted to be, but it happens. Got through it, and I think it made me stronger. So.
Yeah. No, that's great. And then being at Windsor, I mean, you weren't playing on their soccer team as you mentioned. And then when you went to Canisius, you obviously jumped into things right away, and you're wearing the Canisius soccer gear right away. So tell the viewers a bit about kind of the image that you had to have, and kind of managing your own personal brand, knowing that now you're part of something bigger than just yourself. You're part of the team, and every time you walk outside of your dorm room, you're representing the team, and that wasn't the case at Windsor. So tell us about kind of how you how you had to manage your personal brand to then that then leads to the team's brand.
So to this day, that's the number one one of the most embarrassing moments of my life was my day one at Canisius. So our coach at the time did this thing where he brought so day one. So I haven't met anyone. It's like we just got on campus. Our first meeting, we had everyone in like one of those meetings where you go over the team rules and expectations for the year. The very first slide of the PowerPoint he had was all the freshmen, their Twitter, I didn't have Instagram at the time, but their Twitter and their Facebook. And he screenshotted stuff that we tweeted or Facebooked in the past, like stuff like someone having a drink or a cigarette or something like that you don't want on social media. So he basically would screenshot our tweets that we said in years past, because we all had public profiles, like stuff that's like not good to be talking about publicly, right? And he said, our coach was kind of hardcore back then, and he was like, hey, like, if any of you post this stuff now, you're off the team. Boom, just like that. So like that kind of taught me like, hey, like I'm not representing myself, like you said, I'm representing Canisius and the MAC conference, the NCAA. Like we're bigger than just yourself. I mean, soccer wasn't a big sport compared to soccer and compared to basketball and American football, but like it's still NCAA. Like it was a big it is a big corporation. So, I mean, you have to always carry yourself with the utmost respect. And I mean, even now, pro teams, like Instagram is one of like, the biggest like reference letters you can have these days. Like the first thing I do when I hear a new player, the first thing I do is I go to his Instagram and see what he's like. Like I don't check his highlight tape on YouTube. I don't check where he's played. I check his Instagram and what kind of stuff he posts. And like, for me, that's crazy. Like how that's my first impression of a new player. He can be the best player in the world, but if he has a dumb Instagram of posting stuff that I think is immature or unprofessional, I'll already count him below me, Yeah. And like even for regular jobs, I'm sure employers do that now with people's social media. So you really have to be careful, especially in the era we're in where everything's online. Like any small thing, like you can be viral or instantly, right? So you really have to carry yourself properly. And that's something I've learned. Like, I think on my social media, for the most part, I'm pretty professional how I go about my thing. And at the end of the day, like that's my job, is to be a professional soccer player. So I need to do everything on my social media that kind of benefits that. So I learned that really quick day one. I mean, I forget what I tweeted back when I was in high school, but I remember one day I was going through all my Twitter just to delete stuff and make it private, that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not saying that. Like bad stuff. You learn that. You're young. When you're young, you don't know anything.
You don't know any better when you're young, and you just kind of go into things and
you learn quick.
That the ramifications you don't really know until later on. But
it was a bunch of trashing Northern because we dominated them all for 5 years. So that was a bunch of people. Northern couldn't take it, so I just have to deal with it.
So I mean, this one this is a good question because I mean I saw it. So like going overseas, I've seen guys get cut just like that. I mean, bad attitude. You're not getting along with coaches. You're talking back. You're cut, and it's cutthroat. And I know that happened at every level. You see it in high school. You see it in university. You see it at the pro level. Do you think your attitude transfers to playing time at the pro level in a job? And what are kind of some positives and negatives about that kind of situation overseas?
Yes and no. I think for the most part, if no one wants to get along with you, like off the field, if you're just being a nuisance on the field, off the field, if you're just causing problems, but you're producing on the field, I think at the professional level, the coaches look past, like look at Dennis Rodman, for example. Like that guy was missing like practice, middle of NBA finals to go party. Like that's insane how that was allowed. Like I cannot believe that. But like a guy like Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson, they kind of just said, okay, like I don't agree with this, and that's not how you be professional. But he's our best rebounder, and he's this every single game.
Yeah.
I think it hurts your case in the years to follow when it comes to contract negotiations, or if you want to stay with the same team, because you're just going to cause problems. Like, is it worth the hassle to pay that guy?
Good point.
But a high school and a college level, it's a bit different, because then, like high school especially, if you're that kind of person in high school, I don't think that will survive at all. College even more, because players don't get paid. The only people that get paid are the coaches. And if that's the coach's only job, right? So if the coach has 5 Dennis Rodmans on their team in college, and they're making a bad name for the school and for him, and they lose a couple of games, his job's on the line. Like, he's done. So I think if you're in college, that completely can't fly. But I think in professional, like I've played with guys, I'm not going to name names or what teams, but I've played with guys who I just shake my head, who like that, how can you possibly act like this? But they still get played, because when it comes down, they have that switch.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the best for your long-term career, because that lifestyle can only go for so long. But when you're 20, when you're mid-20s, young 20s, like you can kind of live that double life, right? But if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's perfect.
As much as I want to say that, like, I'm the kind of old school, like I completely hated that Dennis Rodman skit. Like, it's funny because it's TV, but like I know if I was on that team, I mean, if I was NBA level and was on that team, I would have been so mad about that. And like, I'm sure they were, they just didn't make it shown on camera. But like,
I mean, for me in this situation, I think I was watching that kind of like Dennis Rodman type thing, and it was kind of similar when I was in university. Like, obviously we had like extreme measures where discipline was important and whatever, but if you were going to get it done on the court and you were going to give your complete effort, and I think it comes down to effort. You give your complete effort on the court. The outside stuff doesn't matter, because if the coaches want to get things done on the court, it's important to be disciplined on the outside. But if you're getting things done and you're giving complete effort and great attitude when the game's going on, it's fine. You have to be able to turn on a switch when you get on the court, and if you're giving complete effort, you're being a good teammate, you're doing all the little things. Like, I mean, at that point, relating it back to Dennis Rodman, like Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan had to be okay with that, because he was a catalyst in helping them get championships. And he was, every time he stepped on the floor, he was never any. He was Dennis Rodman. He was going to be Dennis Rodman. He's going to rebound. He's going to defend. He's going to do everything possible to help that team win championships. And that's where positive and negative comes into play.
And if I can just argue that stance as well too, and I get what you guys are saying, and I agree, part of what you're saying, but I think that, like you said, Alex, as you move up into higher levels, there's less emphasis on who you are as a person and what you do on the field or on the court, because the stakes are bigger and it's now about getting paid. It's about the money. Yeah. So as you are a professional team, that professional team has obligations to pay their either shareholders or to pay any debts that they have. They need income to be sustainable. And, sometimes you have to live with those types of players that are off the field. But bringing it back to that college to high school level, as soon as a coach stops coaching you as a complete person, I think that you are now, you're worse off, and is kind of sending a message like, okay, well, I'm only going to coach you on the court because I need you to perform this job so that this business stays alive. Yeah. And when you're in high school, the coaches, and that's why, we have so much respect for high school coaches, because they have an obligation to coach you not only on the court, but off the court, teach you how to respect other people, how to manage your personal brand. There's so much more to that, to just the on the court stuff, which actually helps you grow as an individual and a person. But as you get older and you stop having that guidance from your coaches, it's actually a disservice to yourself, because now you're going to be in a worse position. Although, yes, you will get away with things you want to get away with. But, you know, from the outside looking in, and I saw this happen. I saw these interactions happen between coach and player. And, you know, I look at it and I was like, yeah, if I was a coach at your level and I had so much to think about and all the pressures that you're handling, yeah, I would probably let that one slide too. But that player is not benefiting after this practice once they walk home.
Yeah, I also, and to add on that, that's a good point. Also, if you can do both, you can be on the field of the court. If you can be complete effort, give everything you have on the court, and be an amazing person outside of it, I mean, that's going to go a long way. You're at any level, that's going to be transferable. So any level, high school, university, pro, if you can be a great person and be a killer on the court and produce on the court, what coach in what organization isn't going to want you? And that's what we kind of try and hammer home to young kids growing up, because it's important to learn it now.
And like based off that, like what Mike was saying, like in high school, like how many, like I don't know what the actual numbers are, but I know it's very, very small for soccer, and basketball, I'm assuming, is even smaller. Like how many high school, let's just say basketball players, will make it to, let's just say, college, like CS or NCAA? Very, 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 very small percentage, maybe one out of your team, if that.
Yeah.
And on top of that, how many of those players will go from college and then go to professional?
Yeah. Very,
very small. So like, you have to be treated in high school like you're a student first, and then you're an athlete.
Yeah. And
then in college, you're a student athlete, which is you're the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're professional, you're an athlete.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you're in high school, you're a student like 1,000% more than you are an athlete. Unless you're LeBron James, like those kind of people in high school. Unless you're that's different. But that's once in a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's so important that like you said, I think with Mike that said, to be a high school coach, like you have so much respect, because like you're not just coaching them the game of basketball, like you're coaching them life, which is like Coach Carter. Like we talked about that earlier, me and Joe, and like that movie alone, like that coach, the stuff he had to deal with, like, and Coach Carter, I'm sure all your athletes have seen that, and he's one of the best basketball of all time. But like those kids, like if it wasn't for that basketball coach, they're either in jail or they're dead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's like they learn the game of basketball the proper way, but they learn life even more. And none of those guys made a pro, I don't think. Maybe some went NCAA, but not pro.
Yeah.
So but see the life changing. I don't know what those guys are now, but I'm assuming most of them have done well for themselves, you know. So I think that's so important. I mean, I forget, like you always hear this stuff, like when a coach stops coaching you, then you've given up, right?
Yeah.
If a coach is on you, that means he wants you to do better on and off. But as soon as he stops getting on you, it's because you're a lost cause and can't be bothered anymore, right? So I think going back to always being coachable, like that's just so important.
Big time.
So we got a memo before this call saying that one of your favorite meals is mortadella sandwich with double the mortadella. But leading on to that, talk to us more about kind of your diet coming through high school and into your playing careers, how that evolved outside of the mortadella sandwiches.
Oh, definitely no mortadella these days. I miss that. Who was that?
Oh, I just made that up.
Okay. No, but this year actually I'm pescatarian. Wow. So that's no meat. That's just fish diet with anything else. I want a progression into full vegetarian, and then eventually I want to go plant-based, like vegan. So up until last year I ate pretty good, but the year before I kind of just ate whatever I wanted to. Like I knew what was healthy and what wasn't healthy, but I kind of just did whatever, just because my metabolism is so high. I just burn everything off because I'm running. But I've noticed as my gone up in age, certain things I've ate, like the next day I'm just a disaster. Like I can't practice properly. Like I'm sluggish. I just don't feel good. And then I kind of went to a more healthy, like full balanced diet last year, and that helped me a lot. Because last year we traveled, like our league, we did 68,000 kilometers in the season. We had the second most kilometers traveled in any professional sports team in any sport in the world. like from Halifax to Victoria, which is one of our teams,
Wow.
that's faster to go to England. So like if you're eating food, bad food, and trying to play it and go fly 7-hour time zone and come back, like you've already lost. You can't recover it. It's impossible. Wow. So this year I spoke with our team nutritionist just to get on a program for me. And yeah, basically I'm pescatarian, so that's fish diet. Every 2 weeks I have a cheat day, so that's when I'll eat my whatever I want, and that's when I like to have meat, just because I'm not going to completely cut that out. But for the most part, every 13 days I'm pretty that. So for example, my meal for a normal day, I like to eat the same thing every day for the most part. My morning, it's a bunch of fruits and like a granola style, with homemade granola, and then I usually have like coconut yogurt with that. A coffee because I like that. Water throughout the day. Lunch, I usually have like 3 or 4 eggs with a bunch of vegetables scrambled in there. Afternoon, I'll have like a fruit smoothie. Dinner, I like to make whatever I want. I know Joe's gonna say I'm not a good cook.
I actually haven't been in on. I think your meals look okay. It's the other guys they're saying that. I think your meals are solid.
Yeah. So it's safe to say that the super sata has been cut out of the diet, except on the cheat days.
It's cut out. Only when I go back to my nonno's house is when
she's forcing that. She's forcing that in you. You're eating it regardless.
If you go home to an Italian grandparent, even your parents, and try to say you're a vegetarian, it's like
that's not happening.
Yeah.
No.
So that's. But for the most part, that's been my diet, and I feel a lot better. Like I feel like I'm not as old as I feel like 23, 24. So
you don't look it.
And it goes back to like, I mean, when you're younger, yeah, your metabolism's higher, but the value you get from kind of setting that routine and building that discipline within your diet could help set you up for when, diet becomes, a much bigger part of necessity for you to perform. So yeah, that's really good stuff.
And you've seen like LeBron James, all those kind of big athletes, like you hear about their diets, like for them it's easier because they have the $1 million chefs they hire year round, right? So they're eating proper, like they can eat a well-balanced food, but like for the most part, every like elite athlete in elite sport, like NBA, NFL, like they're eating plant-based diets, like they're not eating a lot of meats, I mean, I'm sure the movie Game Changer, I'm sure you guys have seen that on Netflix. I recommend that for all the young players. I mean, that might be tough if you're not living alone, like it's a bit more expensive, and if you don't cook your meals, it's kind of tough to transition to that. But that really changed my view on food and what you put into your body. I mean, I'm not completely like that because that's still another adjustment for me. But I thought being pescatarian was going to be impossible, and like I don't miss my because I used to love like all kinds of food, right? So, and when I have my cheat day, then I go crazy. Like it's the morning, that's from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, just crazy food.
Going at it.
Yeah, but like that's when you earn it, so then it feels better to have it, right? So I think that's been my biggest thing to keep me fit and younger on the field.
That's good. So we're gonna shift gears here. I mean, I know I had a couple good seasons overseas, and I really enjoyed my time. And it's a different lifestyle. You get thrown into a fire that's you've never seen before, and it's exciting. Talk a little bit about your time in Sweden. A little bit about the overseas life, like what you enjoyed and disliked, and how overseas kind of compares to the CPL, and kind of how the CPL is providing opportunities for Canadians now to play at home and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I love Sweden. I was there for 3 years, 3 different cities. So my first city was a really small, like 10,000 person town, so it was very tiny. My second city was about 1 hour from Stockholm. So that was a major, 400,000 people, but that's a major city in Sweden. And my last team, I was in northern Sweden, which is like as north as you can go, like big city, but like same latitude as like Nunavut in Canada, right? So we were like extreme north. So lifestyle in all 3 of the cities were pretty much the same. I loved it, to be honest. Like European lifestyle is a lot more, I'm sure you can attest to this too, Joe and Mike, you've been to a bunch, but the lifestyle there, it's so relaxed. Like there's no rush, there's no urgency to do anything. Like You wake up when you wake up, you go work at your time, you have a lot of breaks and outdoor time, and you have coffee with your, like, I couldn't believe how many guys our age are meeting at a coffee shop and having a pastry and a coffee and sitting for 2 hours and talking. I've never once done that with we never once in our friends do that in Sarnia, like, ever.
No.
Like, daily thing, you go to practice for all morning, go to practice and go have coffee for 2 hours. Like, it's partly my job was not as strict as a normal job, but that's just kind of the lifestyle. On the field, I noticed it to be a bit more competitive. I mean, soccer grew up as like what basketball is here, right? So soccer over there is like, it's a religion. Like, it's crazy. I couldn't believe, like, their youth teams, like, they're under 10 and they're under 11, under 12 teams. Like, those guys are professional kids. Like, they're not going to soccer and going to having McDonald's after because they scored 2 goals. Like, they're like properly trained. Like, they're legit. So that kind of goes against what we said earlier about playing multi-sports. Like, I still don't think that's right, but like, just seeing the mentality of the younger kids there playing soccer. But I've noticed on the compete level in practice, the youth, like, we would have academy players training with us, and like, they're just as good as us, just younger. But like, it's their job, right? Like, if they have bad practice, like, their whole day is ruined, and like, they'll come back next practice ready to hunt, you know. I've noticed in the CPL, it's a lot nicer being back in Canada because it's my own country. Like, I'm speaking English again. I learned a little bit of Swedish, but like, I'm sure you know in your countries that you played in, like, it's tough not speaking English, right, with people. So that's the biggest thing going back to the CPL for me. But the level of play is not bad, to be honest. I was expecting it to be a bit worse than what it is, but the CPL, we've had 4 guys get sold this year. It's 1 to MLS. 3 players from the CPL went to the national team this past year, and 2 players got sold to 2 teams in Belgium, top leagues in Belgium, for millions of dollars. So like, there's players that are good. I mean, Canada never had a league before, right? So when you turned 18 and finished university, when you finished university in Canada, or if you went to the States, if you didn't have a European passport to go play in Europe like what I did, like, you were done playing soccer at 22. Like, you were just done. There was nowhere to go for you. But Canada has talent. Like, you see now, the 2 best prospects in the world, under 20 prospects, are Canadian. One plays for Bayern Munich and one's getting sold to an English team. And they're like the 2 best under 20 free players in the world. So Canada has talent. We just never had somewhere to expose it, you know? So I think it's early days still for the league. There's 8 teams now. Atletico Madrid, that's one of the top, like, 5 biggest clubs in the world in Spain, bought a franchise in Ottawa. So now we have an 8th team called Atletico Ottawa. So that just shows you, like, major. That would be the equivalent of Toronto Raptors opening up a team in a small country in Europe and calling them the whatever Raptors, you know, like, it's that same level. So foreign investors are investing in the league, so it's only going to make it better. And we host the World Cup in 2026. So our goal is to have like an MLS caliber league by then. So time will tell.
It's amazing. So in your athletic and academic journey so far, what's kind of the biggest, lesson you've taken away? And then tell everybody kind of about your plans moving forward into the next, 2, 3, 4 years.
Biggest thing, I mean, academically, I always liked law in like school and high school, like that kind of going before university. So that's why I knew I wanted to major in that. I didn't really know what I wanted to do if soccer didn't work out after university. I just knew I always liked law. So honestly, like, I don't think I'll ever use that degree because I just don't see myself. I always see myself working with sport at some level. But I think it's an achievement to get a university degree. Like, not everyone can do that. Even if I don't use it, which to this day I don't think I will, it's still an accomplishment that I'm sure you guys are the same. You guys all have degrees also, even though it took Joe 12 years, but a degree to degree. But I'm sure, like, you guys can understand the sacrifice you have to do for those years to get it done, right? So I'm proud of that. And as far as off the field when soccer is done, I've always kind of told myself I want to get into coaching. I coach every winter that I'm home in the off season, something I like doing. I coach kids when I'm home, but I think I'm more catered to already developed players.
Yeah.
I think I would see myself in a college or professional setting. That's something I've always kind of had interest in. I mean, I love the game too much to not be a part of it some way. Even an agent too, like if coaching doesn't work out, I've always seen myself to do that as well. But definitely coaching would be my number one project after I'm done, hopefully in a lot of years to come.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, everyone has their preference working with kids, working with professionals, university. I mean, it's just kind of who you are and what you've kind of experienced so far. So, what would be your greatest accomplishment to this day? And it can be academically, it can be athletically. What's kind of your greatest accomplishment so far?
Yeah. Well, academically, getting my degree. I'm happy, proud for that. Athletically, I think I would have to definitely winning OFSAA was probably one of my best. I mean, at the end of the day, OFSAA soccer is not like a big deal for like in a global aspect. I guess no one really cares or knows what that is outside of Ontario. But for me, that was the main reason why I came back for 5 years, because I wanted to play soccer. So I was really happy with that. I mean, Mike was part of that team, so you know what that tournament was like. That was pretty nuts.
That was awesome. It was a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, I still have like little flashbacks every now and then. So that would be one of them. But just playing in Canada, my first game professionally here, we were playing in Winnipeg. My first game was in Winnipeg. I didn't play the first two. There was like 12,000 people there. We were playing in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Stadium, so like a massive CFL stadium. And I remember like during the national anthem, like I kind of just took a moment to myself, like I always do during the anthem. I'm just like, who would have thought that at 26 years old back then, I would be playing in Canada, my own country, in a Tier 1 league in front of like 15,000 people. Like who would, like I never thought in a million years that would be happening. So like, I remember I just caught myself like looking at the crowd almost in awe. Like I played in front of big crowds in Sweden too. Like we had massive crowds there. It wasn't my home, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like a surreal moment for me, just like Canada has this league and I'm in it, like as if one of the founders of the league. So that was probably my biggest moment to this day.
There's something to be said about playing in front of your family and friends and Canadians, kind of like you can speak the language, and it feels great. Like it's you look up at the crowd and you're like, I can't believe a kid from small town kid from Sarnia is at this level. It's special, and it's something that I felt as well. I'm sure Mike can talk that as well. It's special to kind of be able to play at a high level in your own country and get the opportunities that we've had. So
especially because you guys played at like two proper universities. Like Mike was closer to home than you were, but even when you were at McMaster, like it's still close. I'm assuming, knowing your parents, they came to almost every game that they could to, right? So like it's nice that my parents could only watch online, and the commentator was speaking Swedish, and it was time zone. It was 7 hours delay difference, right? So now like Halifax is still a whiles away, but we played two teams in Ontario, so they can always play now. So that's kind of something I always wanted to do in my career, because they came to all my games in Buffalo, Canisius. Yeah. But I just always kind of had in my mind, well, what if I retired from soccer and I never got to see me play at this level, you know? So that was kind of a good moment.
And yeah, and another thing that's pretty interesting with that too is that you know all of the efforts that you put in throughout your journey was, you know, in that moment you could reflect back to saying, hey, you know, I earned this. Like all the work that I put in, I earned this moment, this feeling I have right now. And I think a lot of times, you know, in today's generation, we're looking for that moment minutes after we finish a workout or after we finish, after the workout. I mean, and it doesn't come like that anymore. I mean, you have to be patient. You have to wait for those special moments and just trust the process. So that's pretty cool, pretty fascinating that, you know, you were able to reflect back, you know, on one of the biggest stages and look back and realize that, hey, all that effort was worth it for this, because this feeling's special. So that's pretty cool. Before we sign off here, we want to ask one last question, you know, that we're probably going to be asking most of our athletes, and you can keep it high level. You can dive deep into it. It's really up to you. a lot of our listeners are kind of between the ages of 7 and 20, I'd say. So why don't you just tell them? I mean, like, what would your biggest piece of advice be for somebody coming through the process?
I just sticking with it. You're gonna have bad days. Like, no one's perfect. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school team, right? Like, you're gonna have bad days. So it's in those bad days what you want to do the next day. Are you gonna let that bad day turn into 2 bad days, 3 bad days, a week, 2 weeks? I don't want to play sports anymore. Or are you gonna come back? Hey, I did this wrong, so how am I gonna fix that? And I think that's just comes with experience. I mean, I was my biggest critic growing up. Like, I was always getting down on myself if I didn't perform to what I thought was good. Having that mentality, I always never thought I was good enough. Like, I always thought something was wrong. And I think, like, people would tell me, like, oh, you're getting too negative, you're yelling too much, like, it's too negative. And I'm still kind of like that to this day, but I've learned to, like, let things go and just kind of enjoy the moment, because at the end of the day, like, playing sports is supposed to be fun. Never lose the fun in it. Yeah. I had times even when I was playing and it was a job. It wasn't fun. Like, I'm playing, I forget that I'm playing soccer for a living, but for your kids that are playing basketball, like, basketball is a fun thing. Like, it's a fun sport. Like, you get to play with your friends and you get to compete and you get to beat someone, and like, there's nothing better than competition in my mind. Yeah. So I just going through those motions and just developing that sort of just what you're doing as you get older, and you truly start to love the game even more, then you pick the details of your game where you want to improve. And I mean, kids that are going to be working with you guys, I completely recommend your program to them, because I've played with both of you. I know your mentality is off the field, super serious guys. So any kids that are watching this and want to improve, just for sure continue with what Joel and Mike are telling you guys, just because I'm in your family. I know what you guys are like off the field, and I'm the same way. So I just think sticking with your routine and your game plan day in, day out, you'll only see improvements for yourself. And I mean, it's a process. Like Mike said, like, you don't just turn into Michael Jordan or Leo Messi overnight, right? I'm not saying that I'm at that level, but I'm saying you don't get to a good level just by like that. This has taken me to get to where I am since I was 16, 17 years old, of like day after day after day. And even now, I'm not completely satisfied of where I think I should be higher than I am. You never should be satisfied. Yeah. So that's just the mentality that you kind of have to have if you're doing a sport or anything in that life, for that matter. But just sticking with it day in, day out, and just riding the wave, basically.
Definitely. Yeah, awesome. Great. That's great advice. Again, we really want to thank you for coming on. I mean, you provided a lot of great advice for hopefully a lot of young athletes that are going to watch this, and hopefully you can kind of give them a little bit of refreshing advice from a professional athlete like yourself, and it was great to have you on. Mike, you can probably talk.
I reiterate what Joe's saying, and we appreciate having you on. I mean, I know when we dove into this, we thought we were going to be 20 to 30 minutes max, but our emotions got the best of us, and we're creeping up on a little over an hour. So we appreciate you staying online a little bit longer, and obviously wish you the best of luck in your upcoming season, and we'll be following you. And I'm sure Joe will be doing his thing on the Instagram account, making sure we're letting people know that when you're playing close to home. So thanks again.
Thanks a lot.
No, thank you guys for having me. I mean, it's always good to speak to the youth. I mean, basketball in Sarnia and on Hamilton, wherever you guys are reaching out to, they're in good hands as long as they're following you guys. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome. Like I said earlier in this little talk, that we had this back then, we would have been all over that. So kids are lucky to have you guys. So thanks for having me. And now, before we go, I want you to admit who the best 3-point shooter in Canada was.
I'll only admit
between us three.
I'll only admit that you hit some big shots against Northern. I'll give you a few. You hit one from the baseline. You hit one from the 45. I'll give you hit a couple of big shots. You just had it against Northern.
My all-time favorite was the baseline in the Chatham tournament in Basel when it hit the backboard cable of the extension cables and dropped it in the wind.
What about Northern? What about baseline at Northern? Wasn't
Oh,
that?
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, he liked playing against Northern. He had a chip on his shoulder and stuff. But anyways, Al, we appreciate you coming on, and good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you guys. Take care.